Welcome to the Football Tragics. I'm your host, Aaron, joined here by Tony. Look, your team got a big win. My team did not. But before that, we're going to get into Morty's team. And boy, did they have an absolute stinker. 3-1 loss to Brentford. Tony, talk to me about this game. Sum it up for me.
Morty predicted the scoreline. It was just the wrong way. He did say it was going to be 3-1, but obviously he was talking in Liverpool's favour. But again, Brentford at home, they're a different beast to when they play away. They get in, they stick in. I don't know if it's the fans behind them. I don't know if they're familiar with the ground because that's where they train, but they really took it to Liverpool. They dominated them. And I'll be honest, the 3-1 scoreline was probably flattering to Liverpool because I don't want to talk people down, but you've got a donkey up front. So if you've got a donkey up front, he's not going to score many goals, is he?
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, look, I wasn't here for that Morty prediction. It doesn't coincide with the fact that Chelsea's been in stinking form. I promise you. It just happens that busy man, late night records, early morning starts. Can't say too much, but I'm here. But yeah, this result, I mean, even without Ivan Toney, it's a shock, but also at the same time not, because you look at where Brentford are on the table, they're unbeaten in 5 or 6 or so, up to 9. And at home, they're a different beast, like you said. And they got it done without Toney. They looked phenomenal. And the only thing for me was when it was 2-1, when Liverpool got it back to 2-1, I was worried because I thought Liverpool might equalise, even though they wouldn't have deserved anything from the game. But no, Brentford pushed on. They went back on the front foot. And Mbueno, just before the end of the game, 84th minute, got those 3 points wrapped up for a fully deserved Brentford win. Now, Liverpool. They're sitting 6th. This was their first loss in a while. I think they won 4 in the trot before that. What does this mean for their season, Tony? Is it just a little hiccup?
I think they're always going to be there or thereabouts. They're a top 6 side. They're locked in. I know it sounds crazy saying top 6, but there's those 6 teams that are really competing for Champions League football, maybe 7 if you throw in your struggling Chelsea side at the moment.
Yeah, you're going to say 10 teams.
But just obviously for Liverpool, you've gone out, you've signed Gakpo, great signing up front. You've signed Núñez. We thought he was going to be a great play. He does do good stuff off the ball, but obviously he's not scoring. But it goes back to the same thing that United have struggled with for years. Your midfield is the problem. Fix your midfield. United went out this year. They got Casemiro. They've got Varane in the back line. They got Butcher in the back line, and that's given the support to the midfielder. Having Casemiro there has given that support to obviously Bruno and Eriksen. That's the difference. Liverpool, their midfield short. They get injuries. They struggle. They should have never got rid of Genie, in my opinion.
Yeah, spot on. I completely agree. I think Genie Wijnaldum has been the biggest miss for them. You saw what he did, especially in that Champions League triumph a few years ago. The comeback against Barcelona, he was instrumental. And yeah, they've got a donkey up front, yes, but the amount of chances he has, it's worrying if he does start to fire. We know he's fired in the FA Cup. But yeah, if he converts even half of his chances, he will be phenomenal because he does get a lot. But the midfield is the problem. You guys signed strong in the midfield. They haven't, and it's still lacking. They were in for Enzo Fernandez. Not going to happen. Even probably not going to happen to Chelsea either. I think Benfica just want too much. They want Jude Bellingham. Again, who's going to pay the money that people want for Jude Bellingham? It's only going to be Madrid. I think he wants Madrid. So they might miss out there as well. But they've got to go out and sign some midfielders. They went out and got Arthur, who has he even played a minute for them? I don't know. I know he's been injured, but has he even seen the pitch yet? I can't remember. So the midfield is the root of their issues, really. Now Van Dijk's out for a month, apparently. Does that put a hiccup in their hunt for top 4? Potentially. Could be a big miss because we all know how good he's been over the course of the last few years, ever since he really signed for them. But yeah, I think, look, they're slowly getting there. They're obviously building a bit. But for me, Brentford, yeah, deserved result. Their record over the past couple of seasons against the top 6 is phenomenal. They've knocked off, I think, everybody they could have drawn. Even just this season, they've only lost to Arsenal. Every other one's either been a draw or a win. So kudos to them. And even without Ivan Toney, it kind of shows them, and maybe when he does get put away or whatever happens with his charges, that his betting charges, that they might be okay without him. Let's move on to a team that is struggling and a team that's flying. So Fulham 1-0 over Leicester. And I want to speak about that struggling team. 3 losses in a row. Leicester, who looked for a little while like they were back, have now just slobbed again to 3 losses in a row. Tony, thoughts on this game? Or is it just the fact that Fulham are killing it right now?
This was a proper, I guess you could say, dogfight. Both teams that were getting down dirty. Fulham obviously conceded a lot of possession, especially after Mitrovic got on the score sheet early. So, yes, okay, Leicester's slumped. They're still sitting in 13th place, but for me, this is just a fly high in Fulham. They're getting results. They're grinding results. Mitrovic is in unbelievable form, and unfortunately, these are some of those games where you go, we should have got a point. We should have got 3 points if you're a Leicester fan, but for Fulham, they got 3 points, so they're staying up. I reckon they've got enough points to stay up already, if I'm being completely honest, the way they're playing.
Yeah.
Leicester, I don't think they're going to go down. There's worse teams lower than them that are going to drop more points. But, hey, Morty might have been right about Southampton. They are in the bottom three. Maybe it's taken a few years, but maybe he'll be right about Rodgers soon.
Yeah, it's one of those seasons for Leicester, isn't it? Because we know how badly they started. They probably could have sacked Rodgers. They've hung in there. They seem to turn it around right before the World Cup. Then the World Cup comes, and then they've again gone back to average. I mean, James Maddison, I think he might be out injured if I'm not mistaken, but they're missing him because he's clearly their best player. I can't see Yuri Tielemans staying much longer than this season. I think he's out of contract in the summer anyway. But yeah, the thereabouts that, like you said, they've got a lot worse teams than them, so they'll be fine in terms of relegation, I think. But then, I mean, they're still around there, that's for sure. They're only a couple of points ahead. But Fulham, I mean, kudos to them again. Fair play. Mitrovic is bagged, I think he's 10th now. Maybe he's 11th of the season. So he's into double figures, which is phenomenal for him. And for Fulham, because they need him, they need him to be firing. And I mean, he is, and they're up to 7th. And it's crazy to say that they are in contention for European football. So well done to Fulham, and long may it continue. I think they're gonna ride the wave, because they're just like Brentford right now. That they're flying, and I can't see it ending anytime soon. I think they could be fighting for European spots throughout the season. Now, top of the table battle it was. Arsenal 0-0 with Newcastle. Look, I don't want to say it was a snooze fest, because it was a card fest and there was quite a few things that happened, but it wasn't the most entertaining game, if I'm honest with you. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, like you said, the game as a whole, it wasn't really entertaining now. Arsenal, they were on a tear before the World Cup. They've got results, but I'm probably going to cop some hate for this, but they haven't, obviously, besides, I think it was Chelsea back in early November, they haven't really faced any hard teams. Before that, it was Nottingham. They drew with Southampton. They just beat Leeds. Obviously, yes, they beat Liverpool, but they were struggling. Like, they haven't faced these big teams, and now they've gone against the Newcastle, who have been in great form, just got knocked out of the cut, which is hilarious, but they couldn't even score a goal against them. Now, did Arsenal deserve the win? Yes. Was it a snooze fest? Yes. But for me, you look at the rest of their schedule now, Oxford tomorrow morning, then they go Tottenham, United.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big couple of weeks, and I think a draw against Newcastle was probably one of those games where they said, let's get 3 points, and if we can split Tottenham, if we can split Arsenal's, get United's points, we'll take it. But worried signs without Gabriel Jesus, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, look, I knew exactly what you were going to say before you said it. They have anybody, I suppose, difficult, if that's the way of saying it, they've come up against. They've struggled. They lost against United, and that was when United hadn't even clicked yet. Was that one of the early weeks, wasn't it, I believe? Tottenham, yes, they beat them. Again, I wouldn't say Tottenham's doing that great this year. They're kind of thereabouts Champions League football, but they're not doing great. Chelsea, they played us off the park, and they didn't have to even look good against us because we were abysmal. And Liverpool, they beat them, yes, but again, Liverpool haven't kind of clicked there. So the United and the Newcastle points, they should be winning this game at home, and they probably could have won this game. Like you said, they had a lot of chances. They probably could have had a penalty, if not two. A little bit of controversy there, but they should be putting away Newcastle. Even they are high flying at the Emirates. For me, Arsenal should be winning this game. And I mean, we'll get into the City result in a little bit against Chelsea, but the point that it's 5 points difference now between the two. And as you mentioned, what do you got? Spurs, then United. That could just vanish like that points. And they could be sitting in second before you know it. And there goes their title race, because City's running away with it at that point. So this will feel like 2 points dropped. Any other year, maybe you take that, but I think they are starting to think they are title. I think they're actually favourites now. The bookies' favourite, but I think they probably can go on and win the league now. So this could be a little bit of a hiccup for them. Look, I don't want to wrap up that game just yet. So what are your other thoughts on this? They had a lot of possession, Arsenal, but yeah, we're both kind of in agreement that they should have got the 3 points here.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. I want to talk more so, like we said, about their upcoming draw, because I did just look. They have City 2 weeks after that game. So they go United. Well, 100%. They go Spurs, they go United, they go Everton, who drew with Man City, and then they go across to Man City. So it's going to be a couple of weeks, but like you mentioned, they beat Tottenham. Cool. The North London derby. How many times do teams win away? They're playing them, obviously, next one at White Hart Lane. They're probably going to drop 3 points if form goes the way. They've still got to go away to Liverpool. They've still got to go away to City. They still have to obviously face United, obviously at home. But like these games are games where you lose a game, City's on your neck. They've got Haaland. You don't have Gabriel Jesus. You don't have that strike power. Yes, Saka's playing well. If he gets injured, who takes his spot? If Martinelli gets injured, who's going to take his spot? So to wrap up this game, because we have been talking for a bit, I think a lot more worrying signs coming out of this game for Arsenal. Newcastle, you take this result. You want top 4. You'll be settled, I think, for top 6. So happy days if you're a Newcastle fan.
Yeah, I still back Newcastle to get Champions League football, if I'm honest. I think they're a better team than Tottenham's and the Liverpools. And they've done well against the top 6 so far. But for Arsenal, you look deeper into those fixture list. I didn't. I looked at the next 2, as you told me, but you looked even deeper. And yeah, that lead that they have at the top, that was 7, now it's 5, could vanish in an instant. Within the next 4 weeks, they could be 3 points, 6 points adrift of Manchester City. And I think that's very. It could happen, that's for sure. And as you mentioned, Gabriel Jesus, he's a big miss because Eddie Nketiah, I think, had scored in quite a few games at the Emirates, quite a few home games, but this game he had a really good chance where he should have put it away. And those are the moments where you need that striker that can win a game. I don't think he's a striker that wins a game. I think he's a striker that just scores against the minnows. So for Arsenal, yeah, I think it could be over before they know it. Champions League football, I think, is a certainty for them. I still think they're going to carry on, but the title race could be over, even though the top of the table, which is crazy to say. Let's move on. Everton demolished at home to Brighton 4-1. Which way do you look at it? Is it Everton are abysmal, or do you look at it as Brighton are having a great season? Like, which way do you put it to start?
A shit 15-minute period. Obviously, I believe it was 1-0 at halftime, and I think it was 15 minutes in, it was 4-0. Yeah. Absolute blunder for, I think it was the 4th goal, the back pass it. I think it was about 25 meters short of Pickford. So Everton, They're blowing up. Brighton playing good football, but like you said, this is an Everton side, a Lampard side that Lampard's probably not going to see out the season. So they're on the down. Their fans are booing. They've lost the fans. Has he lost the dressing room? I'll throw that one back to you, Aaron. Do you think he's lost the dressing room at Everton?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of these players are just, I don't know, they were riding a high last season when they survived, and I thought that was going to kick them on. They've had a couple injuries here and there. I'm not going to put it down to that. But no, I don't think he's lost the dressing room. It doesn't look like a team that is falling apart in the sense they don't want to play for the manager. It looks as though it's a team that just don't know how to play football right now. I don't know. Like you said, 15 minutes from the 45th minute to the 57th, those goals were shocking. And that the 4th one, sums it up completely. I mean, that back pass was just a stink. I don't know what happened there. They went from having a corner or a free kick attacking to conceding one of the probably the funniest goals you'll see all season. So I don't know. Do you think it's a manager? Like I'm not backing Lampard. I'm not saying he deserves time because he's probably time up if you have these kind of results at a team like Everton. But I don't think it's a case of these players are going to play for the next manager that comes in.
I don't think he's lost the whole dressing room. I think there is certain players. And again, a board's not going to back Lampard seeing how he's struggling. So maybe that's what they do. Maybe they need to get, and maybe it's too late, maybe they need to get a manager in the next couple of days so that they can sign 1, 2, 3, 4 players, strengthen. But again, it's a scary time if you're an Everton fan. And hey, if Gordon wants to come over once they get relegated, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's a tough time because Everton, they are one of the clubs. I mean, they're one of the only clubs who haven't ever been relegated from the top flight, I believe. And yeah, you do think of Everton as a big team. You almost think of them a team that should be challenging European football all the time. So for them to be in this place after what they went through last season, it's a dark time. And again, a team like Everton, a club like Everton, can't be giving a manager just as long as possible because the reality is they're in the relegation zone right now, just like they were last season. And I think Lampard did well to get him out of that because they were in a bad spot. But now it's the same spot. So he hasn't really done his job. He hasn't really performed to what he probably should be. The rumours were that he was going to see out the United game, which they've lost, obviously, in the FA Cup. He was going to see out that game no matter what, but they would have a replacement lined up. So from now until the weekend's fixtures, I mean, what is it, Monday today? I think before we record the next podcast, there could be, or before the weekend's games, there could well and truly be a new manager or a caretaker, and Lampard is gone. And then who knows where he goes from there. So, yeah. Now, Brighton, though, we do have to speak about Brighton. I mean, that Matoma looks like a quality player, and he looks like he could be on his way already. McAllister, I can't remember if he played this game or he played the Cup, looks phenomenal. Solly March doing well all of a sudden. And then, yeah, they're just flying, just like Brentford and Fulham. Three clubs who you would never think of it, but those three clubs are battling for that European Conference League or even Europa League spot. And fair play to them because Brighton haven't missed a beat after losing Graham Potter. De Zerbi came in, same job, if not better. And yeah, did Chelsea start looking at De Zerbi? Can we get him in, replace him with Potter? Who knows? Because they haven't missed a beat. They're looking quality, and away from home, it's a big win. But now let's get on to your boys. Speaking of big wins, United 3-0 over Bournemouth. Tony, obviously you're going to kickstart this one. Talk to me about this game.
Obviously the boys, they're flying high at the moment. I'm not going to come out and say this was a flawless game because, again, it wasn't our best football. And I think from a United fan standpoint, that's probably a positive thing to say, that we know it's going to get better. We know we've played better football and we've still come away with a 3-0 result. Casemiro got on the score sheet. I don't think there's a more deserving player to get on the score sheet than Casemiro in this team. Luke Shaw, it's if he's wound back the clock and he's playing that form that he had at the Euros. He's been unbelievable since he's had that shot, those couple of weeks cracks. Rashford, again, might have been a lucky goal, I guess you could say, but he went in, he got his goal. It's exciting. He's on a tear. He's starting to show those Marcus Rashford can be world class, which I think he can be, but he's starting to show those haters that said he couldn't, that, hey, I'm going to score goals. I can carry a side. I can put him on my back. But for me, the most disappointing person probably from this game and Everton, I'm going to turn to, and I love him. I've got a selfie with him. I met him in Melbourne, but Tony Martial, and I think that highlights how much United need a striker. He's missed a few chances in this game. He was underwhelming. We played Everton. He was missing point-blank headers. Any other day, this game's 5 or 6-0. Any other striker, Everton's 5 or 6-0. So I think if you're a United fan, if you're the Glazers, please get him behind. Chuck a striker. There's rumours, obviously, big man's coming in, but I'll believe it when he's holding that shirt for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I mean, Martial, he goes through these stages where he scores 2 in a row and you think, oh, God, this is the player we've been waiting for, the Ballon d'Or future winner who, everyone knows it's in his clause if he ever wins the Ballon d'Or. Monaco get a fair chunk of that. But no, Rashford's performing the best that he's ever been, arguably. He's up there with the best wingers in the world currently, the way he's playing. And that's what's kind of always been missing because he's a United boy at heart, loves the club, and you just want to see him do well. But you're spot on. I mean, you need a striker. The rumours, obviously, about Weghorst coming in, I think it's not a bad short-term deal because I think it still allows a Rashford to play the way he wants and still be the main man, the star of the team. So fair play to Rashford. He's killing it and he is putting United on his back. But you talk about the likes of Casemiro who, I mean, the way he's come in and just played phenomenal and even chipping in on goals is just revolutionary because it's exactly what you guys needed. And it's just crazy because I think we spoke about it a few weeks ago where I mentioned Paul Pogba would probably be pretty decent if you had Casemiro with him. It just shows that you were missing that CDM for however many seasons, and it took until Ten Hag came in to get it over the line. Luke Shaw, again, obviously, I'm just going to praise the boy as you are, because Luke Shaw's wound back the years as well. He's playing phenomenal. And, I mean, that goal was brilliant from all parties involved. The carry up the field from him, Bruno into Garnacho, back to Shaw, finished off. Perfect counter-attack, brilliant to see. And, yeah, United are flying, and I think it just shows that you guys are better off than the likes of Tottenham's, Liverpool. Yeah, I think you guys are the fourth or even third best if you jump Newcastle, the third, fourth best team in the league currently, and it shows. And it's crazy because Ten Hag's come in. He's said that previous transfers haven't gone United's way, and that everybody seems to back him. The fans absolutely love him as well. I haven't seen a manager come in and have this sort of influence so quickly. I mean, from a United standpoint, Tony, as a fan, talk to me about that.
Oh, I mean, we've had those managers that we've tried to get behind. You look at Ole, we got behind him for probably a bit longer than what he should have. Ralph came in, we got behind him, but again, he never had the support from the home crowd. Like, I think if you ask any United fan, whether it's an international viewer like ourselves, whether it's someone in England, they're going to say we have full focus now. Let's go, David Moyes, Ralph, Ole. We thought, okay, maybe there's something coming, maybe where you look at Ten Hag, you think about Ten Hag's plan and what he's done, and you go, success is back on the horizon. It's coming. It might not be this year, it might not be next, but we're taking steps towards catching City, catching Liverpool, catching Arsenal at the same time. It's good to be able to look forward and go, we're in safe hands.
Yeah, spot on. I think it's crazy because I haven't seen anybody talk negative about Ten Hag. It's funny because his start was shocking, or his bottom table or whatever it was. But the turnaround, you just showed that his system was there. And I don't think if you're a United fan, you're absolutely loving Ten Hag and you have no complaints with how the season's going, because
he starts the season any better. We're almost top of the league, Aaron.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So happy days if you're a United fan, that's for sure. Bournemouth, I mean, I can't really speak too much about it. They had a good start to the season. They're now drifting away a bit. They're falling into the relegation battle that was expected before the season started. So it'll be tough for them. And now we speak about two other teams who are fighting relegation. And it wasn't relegation, 6-pointer this one. Southampton's 1-0 loss at home to Nottingham Forest. Now Nottingham Forest are out of the relegation zone currently as it stands. Southampton, bottom of the table. What's your thoughts on this? Nathan Jones come in. He hasn't really done anything since then, taking over.
He took over a bad side. Like, I don't want to sound too negative here about Southampton, but we know they weren't the best side. And obviously they're struggling. They've lost this game. This is a game that could have gone either way. Like you said, it was a real relegation scrap. Nottingham took it. Now, at the end of the season, when you look back at the games you should have won, it's going to be games like this. I think the most concerning part for me is you're playing at home. You've got the fans behind you, because we know Southampton fans, they're passionate. They'll always get behind their team, but you didn't even register a shot on target with 63% possession. That's what's going to hurt the most out of this game. You have a shot on target, you're probably going to score, but again, Nottingham, Henderson is a great keeper, so I don't know. Southampton, obviously, they've lost this match. I believe they have Everton in their next match after, obviously, the cup against City. So you could probably put a line through City. They're probably going to get knocked out. I mean, it's a two-legger, but we probably won't need the second leg. But they then play Everton, and that's where all my eggs are going to. Because if you can beat Everton, you're one step closer to survival.
Mm-hmm. I've been reading a lot of Southampton fans are saying, Nathan Jones should be getting the sack already. I don't know in terms of the board how likely that's going to happen. It'd be a very quick turnaround if he does get the sack. But you're spot on. He took over a pretty average side, unfortunately, because there's some players in there I really like. Bella Kotchap, for example, love him as a centre half. He played for Germany at the World Cup, or he was in the squad. James Ward-Prowse, we all know what he can do, and he's a Southampton boy. Does he stay if they get relegated? He probably deserves better at this point in his career. I want to hope they have a bit of fight in them. I think they're a decent club. Obviously, Givo was on the pod for years, and he's a Southampton fan as well. But against Nottingham Forest at home, I mean, you should not be dropping points at all, let alone coming away with 0. Because I can't even say Nottingham Forest are in the best form. I mean, yes, they got a draw at Chelsea, but they're not a better team than Southampton. The one thing for me is maybe when Tino Livramento comes back in that right back position, might help him a little bit. But now, look, if we look forward, then they won in the cup. They are through. They beat Palace. So, do they put their not eggs in that basket, for example, but is the fact that he got a win there kind of helping him. They went out and signed Orosic from Croatia, which for me is just a transfer that's possibly going under the radar. I think that could be a very good signing, but he's a winger. He's not that striker, and the likes of Che Adams is not performing. Adam Armstrong, who did score in the cup, but again, is not performing. Stuart Armstrong as well. So if they go and get a striker, I don't know who's out there, but if they go and get a striker and really sign this window, they could turn it around easily. Because I think Orosic is a good little signing, and for $8 million could keep him up potentially. But Forest, it's hard to tell what they're going to do. Yes, they're out of the relegation zone, but they're going to be thereabouts all season, and it could. Who knows how many players they're going to sign again in the window and make it bloody a squad of 50. But yeah, it's a good win for them. It's a much needed win for them. But for Southampton, very poor, and they'll be back to the drawing board. Now let's get into a couple other teams who again was fighting in the relegation zone or thereabouts. Leeds 2-2 with West Ham, and if I'm honest with you, I didn't actually catch this game pretty much at all. So you're gonna have to talk about this one. Hopefully you saw it. But yeah. It looked like a bit of a dogfight between the two, pretty even contest.
Yeah, this one, it was a game that kind of both teams went for it. And I think when you do go into these dogfights, it's important that both teams go hell in level. Like, I think they both had about 15 shots. So for that, it was brilliant. I think from a West Ham perspective, you got dominated in possession. You only had 2 shots on target, one of them obviously being a penalty. So you walk away from, obviously, this game. You've got a point. I think for Everton, positive. You needed all 3, but you take 1. Sorry. I'm still thinking about Everton because I'm thinking about shit teams. But for West Ham, obviously, they got dug in. They got the point. They wanted 3, but obviously they got 1. For me, I guess positives, Scamacca, young Italian, getting on the score sheet. On the flip side, Leeds, Wilfred Gnonto, he finally got on the score sheet for Leeds. He looked really good. Rodrigo looked brilliant. But again, you're getting in positions where you can win games. You're getting in positions where you're dominating teams. You cannot drop points. And like we know Leeds, we've said it week after week, we love watching them play because there's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 goals because they can't defend for shit. So hopefully they go out. They sign a few defenders. Sorry, I take that back. For them, hopefully they go out and sign a few defenders. For me, let's get them relegated. Let's get them back into the championship because I don't think they'll come back up. But obviously, Jesse March doing a good job, but I still think they're in a bit of trouble. And if I'm picking one of these 2 teams to survive, I'm taking West Ham over Leeds come the end of the season.
Yeah, Jesse Marsh, I think you've got to like him as a manager, I suppose, as a person. Sounds like a good bloke. He's an American in the Prem. Speaks well. Kind of takes the blame as well, which I like to see as a manager can do. But for me, I think Leeds, look, they probably could go out and think, yeah, this could be 3 points and it should be 3 points. But also, if you're not losing points to a team below you, it's not bad because they're not picking up 3 points. They're only picking up a point. Doesn't really go either way. So it's not the worst result. It keeps West Ham below Leeds. But yeah, at home, you always fancy the team at home that they should be winning the game when they're sitting thereabouts. But yeah, pretty even contest. Probably need to get a few more shots on target, especially West Ham. Like you said, one of them being a penalty, and 2 from 16 shots, 15 shots is just not good. But yeah, I think both these teams will probably stay up. If I'm honest, I think there is worse teams. West Ham need to click, that's for sure. But Leeds are kind of just hit and miss right now. They're kind of playing each game like it's their last. But yeah, there's worse teams, I think, for both. But West Ham are treading on thin water. So need to get it fixed. There's another team now, as I move on, that does need to fix it up. And they're slowly getting there. Not really. Wolves 1-1 with Villa. Tony, I'm going to start with you again. What's your thoughts on this? I feel like Wolves and Villa play each other like 40 times a season.
Well, I want to start with it's skating on thin ice, not skating on thin water, because that was an absolute blunder on your behalf.
Well, that's how sinking they go in. The ice is melted.
But obviously, this game again, I don't know. Like you said, it feels like we're always seeing a Wolves versus Villa fixture, but we're always seeing that draw or a 93rd minute win or a 94th minute win. And again, a draw doesn't help either team here. Wolves, I think every single year we go, oh my gosh, they're going to do it. They're going to push for European. They're going to get in that top half. And they crumble. Villa, we go, good evening, they're here. So then they crumble. So for me, I think Wolves, this is a big loss for Villa. You've just got a new manager. Back him. He's going to do a good job. We saw he didn't succeed at Arsenal, but there was a lot higher expectations. Stick by him. Let him implement his processes. And I think Villa could be in, maybe not this year, but next year, the year after, they could be pushing for that top half finish and that lower Conference League positions.
Yeah, if I'm a Villa fan, I'm pretty happy with the start that Emery has made. Like you said, the expectations are a lot different compared to when he was at Arsenal, so you can't write him off for that. I think he's made a pretty decent start. This one maybe should be a win at home against a very struggling Wolves, but they'll take the point and they'll build on it. They're quite a ways clear of the relegation battle. They're in 11th. So for me, it's not the worst result, but they probably would fancy their chances against the Wolves. And they looking at the stats, it's pretty even. So, but Wolves for me again, they need to click. They've got Julian Lopetegui in now, and he hasn't done much since coming in. So need to turn it around because they're struggling, and Wolves shouldn't be anywhere near the relegation zone these days. I mean, obviously they've not been in the Prem for crazy amount of years recently. I mean, since they came back up, but they have really made themselves a sure thing kind of in the Premier League as of late. And like you said, they've been pushing European spots and have been in European spots past season. So poor result for them. They need to start clicking because it's not looking good. They're sitting in 19th. They need to get it done early. Now, a London derby, Crystal Palace 4-0 loss at home to Tottenham. I think Tottenham, it's weird because this was a game I thought, they could lose this, but they go out and wipe the floor 4-0 and kind of get their season back on track. I mean, Conte is just so hit and miss with, does he want to be at the club, does he not want to be at the club? Every loss he vents and says, no, the board needs to back me, otherwise I'm gone, and then all of a sudden they win 4-0. With the team that they've got. So talk to me about this game. Harry Kane, another double. I think he's one behind the all-time record for Spurs, goal scoring.
I think, and this is going to sound very weird, I think this is actually a bad result for Conte. Now, not for Spurs, they needed the 3 points, but the board turns around now and goes, what do you mean we need to back you? What do we mean we need players? We just beat a team 4-0 that, yes, Palace haven't been getting the best results, but we scored 4 goals. Like, we don't need strikers. It's sorted. We don't need defenders. We got a clean sheet. Our midfield dominated. Like, why do we need to sign players? So, again, like you said, Tottenham, they've been hit and miss under Conte. I think this is one of those, put a Band-Aid over something. We got a good result. We might get a good result next week, but like we said, 4-0 Palace means nothing if you don't back it up in, obviously, the North London derby. So, we'll see what happens when they face Arsenal. For Palace, I didn't expect Palace. Oh, sorry. I thought there was a chance, but I didn't really expect Palace to get a point out of this game. So it kind of went the way I thought. But like I said, for Tottenham, I think this really halts their signings in January. And I don't really think they get many players in, if anyone.
It's definitely an interesting way to look at it. I mean, I didn't think of that, but I think it does make sense because they scored 4 goals. Son Heung-min scored again, finally. Harry Kane's obviously still scoring. And they keep a clean sheet. Palace had a lot of chances, 19 shots. Only 4 on target. They probably deserve a goal here or there, if not a point here or there from this game. So, yeah, the Band-Aid's been thrown over and maybe Daniel Levy goes, no, we don't really need to sign anymore. Why would I waste any money now? Because you've got the squad. It's up to you to do it. So I think that could just be, ongoing. So that's a great point you make there, and it's an interesting way to look at it. Palace, they're having, again, an okay season. I like to mention both teams that play, of course, not just the Tottenham. But, yeah, it is just a game for Tottenham that they should be winning if they're hunting Champions League football or Europa League at worst. They've got to win this game, and they did. But the big one comes up I almost want them to beat Arsenal because I want to see Arsenal season derail. And they're at home, so it probably does happen because we all know the record that happens in North London derbies. The home team wins. So that'll be a big one. Can't wait to see that. But before that, let's get into the final game of the round. Unfortunately, it's my boys. Had to wait a while to watch it, and I don't want to say I wish I didn't because I always watch Chelsea games, but it's not fun right now being a Chelsea fan. 1-0 loss at home. Unfortunately, we looked really good for half an hour and probably the much better team for the first half hour, even 45. And then we come out like we have every other game. And it's just like there's two teams. Like we've got a first team and a reserve team, but it's the same team. They just don't want to play the second half. Don't know what it is about us. But yeah, Rio Mahrez goes and scores. Obviously, we're going to mention it's Kepa's mistake for sure. We probably get a point if he doesn't do that. Don't know what he's doing because he's had quite a decent season. Under Tuchel, he's quite good as well. So another poor result extends our shocking run, and then we go and lose 4-0 to them in the cup this morning, which we won't obviously speak about much, but that's a stinker of result. We're out of all domestic cups. It's just I don't know what it is about this season. Just got to get it over and done with and move on. We all know Tommy Tuchel probably didn't deserve the sack, and we've gone out and got Potter. And I don't know what your thoughts on him as a neutral man are, but I want to say give him time because you can't go and sack Tommy Tuchel and then sack Graham Potter straight away afterwards because what was the point then? But it's just not looking good just yet. I want to say hopefully his tactics kick in, but doesn't look like anybody's really playing for him. Doesn't look like he knows what to do, and we're in 10th spot, and who knows how much worse we could get because we don't look good. We don't look like getting any better. So what are your thoughts on this? City, obviously, big win for them. They've narrowed the gap to 5 points, and then obviously talking about the Chelsea situation.
For City, you don't play well, you get a result against a side where you look at the fixtures at the start of the season, and Chelsea is a team that at the bridge, you think you might drop points. So good result for City. Did they deserve it? I think I would have been okay, and I said it would have been justified if this was a 0 or draw. Both teams had some chances. I don't really think either team did enough to deserve to win this game. So from that standpoint, again, City there's some teams where they just have your number. You guys haven't scored against them since that Champions League final. So
yeah, well that's the thing though. Before that, like that was the game that we had their number for 3 games in a row. Tommy Tuchel had Pep all over, and then all of a sudden the tides flip. We haven't scored a goal, like you're obviously saying, in 5 games against them. They've won 5 in the trot. So,
Chelsea. Where do we start? It's struggling. Did Tuchel deserve the sack? I think if you're gonna sack Tuchel, you need to have replaced him with someone better than Potter. That's probably where I'm going to put that one at. I look back to, and obviously we'll speak about a few things, but Abramovich, what he built was a side where the fans got behind. If a manager went, I need this player, boom, I'm there. Now, on transfers, obviously, is it Enzo Fernandez that you're after? All these rumors are coming out now that you agreed to get a deal, but now you want to negotiate after they've agreed to a fee. So you can't listen to everything that comes out, but this wouldn't have happened underneath Abramovich. He wants someone, you sign him, end of story. See you later. So I think that's where it falls. The coach, probably not up to it for a Chelsea just yet. The owners, still trying to figure out how they want to run this club. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a few years before you see Chelsea back at their best. And I mean, in the nicest possible way, if they get there. Because if it keeps going this way, I see them going downhill before they come back up.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things obviously I want to mention with that. The Enzo Fernandez deal, I think, what everybody was saying that we met his release clause was like 127 million. Would have been the highest paid player in Premier League, biggest transfer ever. I can't say that it's justified at that price. I don't think just a World Cup, and yes, he's been great at the World Cup, good for Benfica, but I can't say that he's worth the money. All of a sudden, then we're saying we only offer 85, which probably sounds a bit better, if not still ridiculous. That's a big difference, 50 mil difference or so. So you understand why we've kind of backtracked on that. So I think Todd Bowley is more than happy to spend the money within reason, but also will happily splash the cash if he needs to. But now Potter, I think Chelsea might have been it's tough because Chelsea's always been a sacking club. You don't get results, you're sacked. So that might, for him, probably not the best club to be at. And I agree with you. If we're going to sack Potter, Tuchel, which was a crazy decision, we should have been signing someone who, you not almost need to sign a Zidane or a Pep, someone who is just proven success. So I don't know. It could be a little while. I think the money, we're still going to sign players for sure. We're still going to splash the cash, if not more than Abramovich did. But I think it's a little bit stupider the way we spend money now. It's just you want that player? Yeah, done. It's almost like who he wants. Oh, yeah, I want to play. I like the look of this bloke. But does he fit the system? Doesn't matter. I'll sign him anyway. Whereas Abramovich would not sign a player just for the sake of him signing it. He'd sign a player who the manager wanted, who's going to work well for the club. A couple missed ones in there, obviously, haven't worked out. But, yeah, it could be a little while, unfortunately, before we see a bit of success again. You guys have obviously gone through that period. Arsenal, obviously, still haven't seen success, but are going through that period and kind of reaping the rewards now of do they trust a manager. But interesting to see what kind of players Potter can bring in, because he's got this side now. And I want to see his players come in and the ones that he wanted to sign, because I don't even know if the ones he just signed, David Fafana up top and Badashili from Monaco centre back, I don't know if they're his signings or if they're just, again, Todd Bowley wants them, I'll sign them players. So we'll wait and see. Very tough period, very, very hard to be a Chelsea fan, but you dig through, you've gone through the same period, and we crack on, Tony.
Yeah, there's not much more to it. Just dig deep, have a few scotches, and you hope you come out the other side and there's a few results coming your way.
That's it. Look, very long pod today. We had a lot to cover, but a great one. Well, for you, I suppose, not for me, talking about Chelsea losing. But as always, Tony, thanks for joining me. We'll be back after the weekend's fixtures, some big ones in there. Actually, a Manchester derby, Tony, so that'll be a good one to cover, and a London derby in the same week. That's huge. Can't wait for next week to look at that. You might not be happy. Yeah. You might be happy. Who knows? But as always, we'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us. See you later.